record this on the computer. Thank you for the reminder, Michelle. Okay, just a few ground rules. So if everybody would mind muting themselves unless they're going ahead and speaking. If you would raise your hand if you have a question. I'm just going to moderate a little bit so we can get everybody's questions in as effectively as possible, and try to keep your questions fairly succinct so that we can again, like I said, get to as many questions as possible. So without further ado, let me have Ramsey and Greg just quickly introduce themselves, and then we'll go right into questions. You can also, if you have a question, you may also put it in the chat.
Aloha and good evening. My name is Ramsey Mansour. I'm the director for the Department of Environmental Management.
Thank you, Ramsey. And Greg?
Yeah, hi, Greg Goodale. I'm the Solid Waste Division Chief. Been with the county for a little over 10 years now.
Thank you, Greg. All right, who wants to start us off with our first question? I will start it off since you guys are all thinking about the most important question with one that I've heard numerous times. What are the opportunities for an additional green waste facility in Hamakua area?
I guess I'm glad you brought that up, because there was a series of meetings we had around the island here last year. Actually, I guess it was last spring. We were going around, we were talking about some of the different things that we're going to be changing at the transfer stations, like load size limitations and things like that. And one of the things that came up was for the Honoka'a and Hawi transfer stations, the fact that they don't have a place to drop off green waste. You know, right now, given the financial constraints that we have, one of the things that we proposed in lieu of actually, you know, building another facility that would accept the green waste was to possibly utilize one of the existing days, since both those stations are open 7 days a week, use 1 day a week as a green waste drop-off day. Unfortunately, probably right on the heels of that is when COVID kicked in. And because of a lot of the limitations that we were having, you know, because of staff shortages and the like, that idea kind of got put on the back burner as far as being able to, you know, utilize 1 day of the week as a green waste drop-off day. And the reason why we looked at it that way is because we could use the existing facilities. It wouldn't involve us having to go out and buy any new equipment or construct anything. We could just use the existing facilities and have people use 1 day a week to drop off their green waste. And you know, we got some folks come back that, you know, some folks like the idea because it gave them a way to keep the green waste from going in with the rest of the solid waste. Other folks didn't like it as much because they felt like having that 1 day a week for the green waste drop off could potentially not be enough. So so anyway, that was a conversation that was had about a year ago. And, you know, right now with COVID still going on, we're still, you know, we're looking at that idea, but it hasn't been something that we've implemented.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Any other questions? Daniel, go ahead.
Well, couldn't there possibly be just a dedicated green waste area someplace, different place, not just the transfer stations?
So you want to go ahead, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there could, but I guess the bottom line is anything like that's going to involve a cost. There's going to be a cost to the county either leasing a location, but then it also means for us having to bring in additional equipment. You know, right now we're actually, you know, right kind of we're I mean, we've got the amount of equipment that we need to be able to do, handle the facilities that we have. So once we add additional facilities, we have to add equipment to be able to service that location. We at one time had looked, and this was not for the Honokaa area, but this was actually up in Hawaii. We had talked to Surety about some old sugarcane land that they had down there. But the bottom line, the reason that it didn't go forward was just the overall cost of developing that site, having an alternate site for the green waste drop off. So, I mean, we have looked around. Matter of fact, I mean, we approached for Honokaa specifically, we approached Kamehameha Schools, because Kamehameha Schools land butts the Honokaa transfer station. And so we had actually approached them for the to see if they would even entertain the idea of leasing some of that land to, potentially provide some of these additional services. But unfortunately, we haven't gotten any kind of response back from those folks. So, I mean, it's something we're still looking at, but we just haven't been successful in getting any response from Kamehameha School.
Thanks, Greg. So we'll go to Dawn, and then I saw Michelle, and then Nalani. Dawn, you had a question?
There we go. Yeah, first I'd just like to say, I think you guys do a great job of providing these transfer stations. It's a great convenience to me, I know personally, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. The one question I have is, I see that there is a county employee, and I'm assuming that there's one. I use the Honomu station almost exclusively, and they, they're friendly, and I even do talk story with them sometimes. But my question is, what is specifically their purpose? Because I guess I'm not exactly sure. Is it just there to make sure that the bin is compressed, or I don't know, I guess what's their purpose? But what are the things they're supposed to do?
Yes, Greg
Yeah,
could
go ahead,
chime
Randy.
into that. But yeah, we are mandated to have an attendance on these sites through the Department of Health, because we deal with waste. So we have to have somebody in there during the operation as people bringing in their waste. Greg, you could add to it. But I think
Yeah,
that's,
and what Ramsey just said is exactly right. And I don't know if, folks that have been here on island a long time, I mean, it used to be a lot of the stations were basically like 24/7. The state of Hawaii Department of Health basically a number of years ago mandated that the stations essentially had to have an attendant present during any operating hours. So for us, the way we run all of our transfer stations island-wide is we have a security guard contractor who actually opens the station in the morning. So they're usually there from 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. And then it's county employees that are there from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. And then the security guard contractor comes back for the last 2 hours from 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. to lock up. But yeah, as you said, Dawn, and I appreciate what you had to say about, our folks, and I agree wholeheartedly. We got some really good folks that are out there working hard every day. But yeah, they are primarily, there to oversee what's going on, to run the compacting unit for the trailer and the like.
Okay, thank you.
So do they have any kind of, are they supposed to regulate anything? I mean, if somebody is doing something wrong, are they supposed to, do they have the authority to say you can't do that, or you can't dump this kind of thing, or, in that regard? I mean, I guess one of the things that I know, one of the things I wrote to Heather was this issue of pickup trucks not having a cover over their loose garbage, which is a violation of state law.
Mhm.
Do they have the authority to say, look, you can't do this kind of thing next time? Do they have authority to cite anybody?
Well, what's actually, what's occurring, so our administrative rules for the Department of Environmental Management were just recently updated. And one of the things that actually was written into those administrative rules was the unsecured load. So the state of Hawaii has an unsecured, uncovered load
Right.
rule for state highways. We don't, we have no enforcement over what happens out on the road. So what we are starting to do is basically our attendants are gonna basically take down information. We have the ability through our programs to be able to, use from, like, say, license plate information. We'll be issuing letters to folks. So not only will our facility attendants talk to people, let them know, what constitutes an unsecured, an uncovered load, but then also we'll follow up with that with a letter, basically letting folks know of their obligation to, secure and cover their loads when they come to our stations. Should we find folks doing that, repeatedly, then we do actually have the ability to issue an unsecured load fee. So if we find people that are coming, repeatedly to our station, so it's not a citation, so we don't have the ability to issue a citation, but we have an unsecured load fee that we can issue out to the people that may come to our station. And we'll do that at the landfill in West Hawaii, and also in the South Hilo reload facility.
Thank you, Greg. Ramsey?
Yeah, in addition to that, we really train our people just to kind of watch for the waste, to make sure that everything in order. Just look at it like every other business. Somebody needs to be in that business. We cannot just not have anybody around. And the idea of they may have some authority, but as you know, sometimes they may, interact with other people coming in. But we just want to make sure they act professionally and avoid any confrontation, because sometimes they may see that.
Thank you. We'll go to Michelle, and then Nalani, and then Daniel after Nalani. Michelle?
Thank you, Heather. And thanks, Greg and Ramsey, for coming to speak with us. Mine was circling back around to the 7th day, or Honokaa and Kohala transfer stations being a green waste dump on those days. You said you talked about it about a year ago. Is there any possibility that that could be put in place as like a stopgap until additional facilities were found or something like that, so that we could move forward with what would benefit the community at large? Is there like a timeline on that? Like, how much would it take? Would it just take a couple phone calls, or is it like we need more staff and energy?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I appreciate, for us, really what it means is making sure that we know we have staff that we continue to be impacted by folks dealing with, kind of just the fallout of COVID, and primarily, it's with school. We have a lot of parents still staying home with kids, and that's something that has an impact on our staff. So, until, I guess, really for us, until we feel like we have a consistent level of staffing that can get out and do these things, because it's not only just the attendants that are there at the station watching things, but it's the truck drivers who have to take the trailers and bring them to the green waste facility and all those things. So we really would like to move forward with it. And I agree with what you said also. We do see this as kind of more of a stopgap. We do want to build actual facilities, but the reality is, until we've got the funding to move forward with actually acquiring the land, building the infrastructure, buying the equipment, and then potentially even having to hire additional staff to monitor that kind of thing. I can't tell you it's going to be right away. But as far as the idea of using one day a week for green waste, I mean, we believe it is something we could implement pretty quickly. I mean, we were ready to go, and then, like I said, COVID caught everybody by surprise, and here we are. So, you know, I firmly believe it's something we could implement, you know, once we feel like we've got a staffing level that would allow us to do that.
Thank you, Greg. Let's move on to Nalani.
Hi there. I'm Malani with Ahula Community Association, and I thank you both for your time. You too, Heather. And I'm really kind of going with what Michelle was just talking about, is having that one day a week here in Honoka'a. We in Ahualoa have such a convenient so many hiding places for people who have their green waste on their truck, who didn't know that they couldn't dump it in Honoka'a. They'll come through our neighborhood and back up, and there it goes. And then it's the county that's dealing with getting it picked up. And they've been wonderful, just so you all know. They're coming and picking up the waste that people are dropping. But finding a way to make this happen sooner than later will maybe save dollars as well. So that's my plug for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Nalani. I'm gonna just take that and transition a question to Greg and Ramsey about illegal dumping. I know that that is a concern across the district because there are many little pockets that are secret spaces that don't get checked very often. And I know I see abandoned cars and mattresses and dishwashers and green waste in the gulches and back corners. What are some of your thoughts on addressing the illegal dumping issue?
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but so I mean, we manage, just so everyone knows, our division manages also the abandoned vehicle program. So we actually, you know, have an active role in getting out. So for anybody that doesn't know what the process is, you know, you have an abandoned vehicle in your area. The first phone call you make is to Hawaii Police Department. So Hawaii Police Department is the ones that actually goes out and tags those vehicles. Now our folks are responsible for making sure that our contractor tows the vehicle away. So we do that once we basically receive word from HPD to go out and tow the vehicle. And, you know, one thing that we actually kicked off here, it's been more than a year ago, but we have what we call our Vehicle Disposal Assistance Program, which actually allows folks to get a vehicle into our disposal location. Now, I know, you know, up on the Hamakua coast, it may not seem like it's really that convenient bringing it all the way back into Hilo, but for those folks that are willing to bring a car, you know, into Shipman Business Park, we actually have a program where we'll take care of the disposal for that vehicle if people take the effort to bring it into town. We also offer that over on the west side of the island as well. But as far as the trash that gets left by, you know, we coordinate with the Department of Public Works on the cleanup of you know, some of that, because the Department of Public Works is actually responsible for the cleanup of the refuse that's left in the right of way. We take care of the vehicles that are left in the right of way, but Public Works takes care of the trash that gets left in the right of way. But yeah, it's you know, this has been an ongoing conversation about how do we get people to stop doing this. And you know, what we always come back to folks and say is, you know, we provide probably one of the most convenient, it's free. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. You can come, most of our stations are open 7 days a week, and it doesn't cost you anything to come in. But you know, the folks that are out there doing this kind of stuff, what we found is they're lazy. They don't want to come, and they don't want to do the right thing. And these things are made available in multiple locations. I mean, we probably have one of the most convenient systems of any place, you know, I've ever worked. And you know, we're proud of how the network of systems that we have and the number of days they stay open per week. But, you know, it's sad when you see people in such a beautiful place like we live in, treating it so poorly, and dumping things in places where we already have locations they can go.
Ramsey, you want to add?
Yeah, in addition to that, we are working on trying to secure public education funding. So hopefully through public education, eventually these people will learn to keep our island beautiful through the beautification project or education. So hopefully that would work. Sometimes it's hard to change people behavior, but hopefully with the education and eventually they become like everybody else's, going to a transfer station and get a free service out of it. Thanks.
Changing behavior is difficult. Crystal had a follow-up, but first I'm gonna go to Dr. Bob because he's got to sign off at 6 o'clock. Bob, did you have any questions for our solid waste and environmental management team? You're muted.
Okay, I have the good fortune of living between the Honolulu and Laupohoi center. So I alternate days, but one thing that concerned me is at the Laupohoi station, there's a recycling tent there. And when I go there, it seems to be there's a big social gathering there of people with kids running in and out of the place, picking up toys and stuff like that. So I know there's a definite conflict on what is the mission of that station there. So what I like to suggest is maybe the opening to the tent, if you face it toward the Hamakua side, toward the school, then that gives access to a lot of those people that come and dispose of their waste. You know, there's a couple of times I see kids running in front of my truck, or people would open their door to pick up a few recycling things and leave the car running with no attendants and all. So it's basically, it's kind of alters the traffic pattern while you go and dump those things. So if you maybe put lines or whatever it is, or I think simply changing the entryway to the tent would alleviate some of those issues.
So I guess to turn that into a question, is there any plans to reconfigure the transfer station in Laupohoi to make it run a little bit more efficiently?
Yeah, that's a great question. And matter of fact, I mean, that reuse center got put in probably about 10 years ago. And when it first started up, there was a really active group that was, you know, really taking care of that facility, and they were in there on almost a daily basis, and they were throwing away the things that got water damaged. And, you know, anyway, bottom line is, you know, fast forward here 10 years, and unfortunately, we don't have any group that's taking active involvement in that facility. So honestly, there's been a lot of calls for us to even, you know, basically shut that thing down, because it's actually become kind of almost an eyesore and kind of more problematic. So, you know, we are looking at some things that we may be able to do. And I mean, that's a good suggestion, if nothing else, you know, or reorienting the entrance. You know, back, you know, to what the councilwoman said about, you know, looking at ways to, you know, make that site more efficient. Yeah, we have looked at a lot of different things that would potentially make that site function better and even provide, you know, some services that maybe aren't being provided right now. But again, it comes back to, you know, cost of the development and some of those kinds of things. So Laupohoi in and of itself hasn't been kind of one of our, like, on the high list. We got stations that, you know, have some real issues that, you know, like just structural kind of issues that we are trying to get after. But I like, you know, what you said as far as just at least evaluating the possibility of just changing the way the opening. And if nothing else, if that site doesn't continue to be functional, we may be having to look at potentially, you know, just doing away with that reuse tent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Crystal, why don't we go to you for the follow-up question on the illegal dumping?
Sure. Just to clarify, Nalani, you were talking about illegal dumping of green waste, right? When you were,
Yes, she was.
okay, because my question, it just popped up into my mind when I was listening to Greg speak. It sounded as if to open up the green waste and make those changes, that there was going to be some cost to the county. And so I just was kind of wondering, what is the cost to the county for the illegal dumping, for the picking up of the illegal dumping, specifically the green waste?
You know, I mean, again, good question. I can't really speak to that because that's not really a program that we actively manage. That's managed more by Department of Public Works. So I really don't know what they specifically spend, you know, on an annual budget basis for, you know, going out and picking up, whether it's green waste or any other kind of rubbish that gets left by the road.
So I'll follow up on that, Crystal, a little bit more on the green waste, but I am curious, you know, in terms of the money that we use to pick up the abandoned vehicles, I assume you're also going out and picking up things like mattresses and washers and dryers and you know, the large appliances. Is that also coming out of that beautification budget, or is that DPW as well?
That's DPW as well.
So I'll get on Ikaika's case to find out a little bit about.
I'm not throwing them under the bus.
No, I'm not going to go to him and say, well, so Department of Environmental Management said.
We just tow the bus. We don't have anything to do with it.
No, it works better when we all collaborate and break down those silos. Let's go to who did I see that had a question? Meizu, and then Daniel. Did you have another question? Okay, so let's go. Well, let's go to Meizu first, and then to you.
Yes, please.
Meizu, you had a question about recycling? Oh, she may have frozen. Okay, Meizu, we're going to come back to you. Daniel, go ahead.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, Heather. I'm sure a lot of the reason why I'm here is because I've been such a thorn in your side, and it is what it is, because I've used the Lapahoehoe site almost exclusively. And from what I see down there is not good. It really isn't. I've seen well, let me just back up. How many different people come up there to be monitors? It seems like there are several, and you'd never have the same one all the time, which would be good to have. If you had a regular guy come up there, you would know how he would handle things. And I would really like to see that happen. And as I have seen, there's at least 2 guys that are really good with their job. I've talked with them. I've gone over, and they always sit up by the containers and the free tent, as we call it, and the chute. And they really do a good job because they're experienced, for one thing, and they seem to really have an interest in doing their job well. One of the guys and I were, as we were talking, he was just really lambasting, raking a few of the other guys over the coals, like how bad they were. Okay, which is too bad.
Daniel, I'm gonna interrupt you here and ask you to keep this succinct to the form of a question, just because I want to maximize the time we have with environmental management to respond to specific items.
Okay, here's a question. How are well, well, as I said, I think I'm being invited here because I'm from Lapahoehoe, and I've sent you several things about guts being dumped down the chute, and going to talk to the guy who's supposed to be sitting in his truck and find the truck empty. He's nowhere's around. Okay, how are these monitors trained for their job?
Greg Ramsey, you want to talk about training?
Greg? Ramsey?
Sure, yeah, so, no, our folks, I mean, we actually go, do ongoing training with our folks, and it has everything to do, you know, with whether it's just safety training, you know, how to do their job safely, how to work with the equipment that they have to work with in a safe manner. But also we do spend a fair amount of time trying to work with our folks on even just how to work on customer service type issues. You know, we realize that, you know, we employ a lot of folks island-wide, and you know, you're going to have some folks that do a really good job, and you're going to have some folks that that we have to work with a little bit more. And so you know, it is a challenge, but I mean, we believe that ongoing training, you know, for all aspects of the work that they do is important.
In
Well, seems to
addition
be-
to that, because of the COVID-19, just the last year, it's really hard to kind of sit down and have a training or just get a program together. Just within the last few months, we were able to get a Zoom meeting and try to train them. And I think we got training twice a year on safety. But like I said, because we short staff, and it's hard to, and the COVID, so it's hard to just say, let's shut down the facility for the sake of, you know, another training. But definitely, every time their supervisor interact with them, definitely the customer service, the safety, the tailgate safety every morning and what have you, that is taking place. But any feedback from the constituents is highly appreciated, so we could improve. There's always area for improvement, and we like to hear the negative as good as the positive.
So I think this is a good time for me to take a quick break and ask you guys, Greg and Ramsey, can you give everybody some guidance on how to report issues most effectively? Like, what process should we take? What email, what number should we call if it's an issue with the folks, the monitors, or if there is, say, for example, something that in the chute that doesn't belong in the chute. Can you tell us the right process for contacting you folks, especially on weekends?
Well, yeah,
def-
we,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Ramsey. Oh,
Yeah, there is a county email. You could access our website and you could send that email through the county email. And it comes to me, my secretary, private secretary, streaming through these emails daily. And then they forward them to me, and I could forward them to the right person like Greg to handle, or to my deputy director. So there is a process. There is no reason to get a hold of Heather and everybody else's. I think there is a system. So log into our website, send your concern in emails. Believe me, we get it. My private secretary monitor these daily. So, and we've been getting it. So, Greg, you could add.
Yeah, no,
chime in.
and for the record, I'm not trying to get out of things like Daniel emailing me a couple times a week. That's totally fine, Daniel. and you're in competition with a few others for the biggest thorn in my side. Let me just say. But no,
I thought I was number one.
no, there's some Don's in the running too. No, I'm just teasing Don. Anyway, my point is, you're also welcome to CC me on these. I do like to keep tabs and be able to follow up. I'm not trying to get out of this here, but thank you for that, guys. What about illegal dumping? If you already mentioned, if people see a vehicle, to call the police department first, but what about other things that folks are finding on the side of the road? Should they contact you, DPW? Should it be the police in that case as well?
Well, if they see it actually happening and they can get a license plate number, then yeah, HPD would be the ones. you know, if you actually visually see somebody, you know, unloading trash out of a car, that's the kind of thing that the police are looking for. Because oftentimes what they'll say is, unless they see it happening, then it makes it hard for them to do. But in terms of, you know, the cleanup process, DPW for basically like roadside litter would be the best place to go. But yeah, for abandoned vehicles, obviously, as I said before, HPD would be the best place to call.
Okay, great. So those of you that have contact with your neighborhood watch groups, you know, make sure that you get out there that if you see people doing illegal dumping, let's make sure we're reporting that. Let's go to Meiju. So I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about recycling. So Meiju, if you want to introduce that.
Sure. Thank you very much for being here and doing this. Yeah, just that we were really happy to see the metal recycling returned, but a lot of people are stockpiling their plastics and they're getting higher. Everybody's backyard is full of sorted plastics. So just wondering, what are the plans there? How soon might something happen? A lot of people were looking at Puna Precious Plastics, but that had its other problems, so that didn't work. But we really need to do something rather than bury all this stuff. There's enough plastic in the ground as it is.
So Ramsey or Greg, can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at for recycling plastic?
Yeah, so I mean, for our programs, I mean, you know, and I'll be honest with you, we when our contractor came to us, when they told us that they were no longer going to be taking the plastic, actually the news was worse than that. They were basically ready to pull the plug on the whole thing. The markets for recyclables are that bad. I mean, you know, trying to ship things from where we sit in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to the Asian markets have been extremely challenging. I mean, the county pays actually quite a bit for even the materials that we still continue to send to the recyclers, which is the brown paper bags and cardboard, corrugated cardboard. You know, we also have the non-high five glass, which we get some subsidy from the state. And matter of fact, there's been talk with the state about trying to increase the amount that goes toward that, which could help us even, you know, increase that program for the non-high five glass. But as far as plastics go, you know, I'll just be honest with you. The markets are very poor. You know, it's not something even right now that, you know, you can even really find anybody. There's nobody on this island that's even willing to entertain the idea of even accepting the plastic. One of the issues that we had was so much contamination. People, you know, and the term goes, you know, wish cycling. You know, it's basically you're putting it in the container and wishing that it might get recycled. And unfortunately, you know, our vendors really want clean material, and they weren't getting it. I mean, we were getting people that were dumping everything under the sun in these containers, and that really caused them a lot of problems. So there is, you know, Business Services Hawaii is accepting plastic at their location at the Shipman Business Park. So there are folks that, you know, will take their plastics into Keao to the Shipman Business Park, and they'll accept them there because they have somebody that can actually take a look at what you're bringing to them and ensure that it's materials that they accept. So, you know, I'm sorry I don't have better news as it pertains to that, but you know, we're looking at different things also, you know, as far as working with some of the neighbor islands, you know, particularly even Oahu is having an outlet for some of that type of material.
Ramsey, go ahead, and then we'll go to Ruth and then Michelle.
I guess in addition to that, we are working with some leaders within the communities on trying to probably capture all the plastic locally and try to remanufacture it kind of melt it and remanufacture it. I have few meetings, and like I said, this is ongoing challenge. So, but definitely, we always thinking about it, and we always invite anybody with ideas to share them with us.
Thank you, Ramsey. Okay, just FYI for
Heather?
everybody, hold on just a second, Mesu. So
No,
in the chat, I put in the email address and then 2 numbers, the general number for DPW and then the highway maintenance number for when you see stuff at the side of the road. Mesu, you had a quick follow-up?
No, I just wanted to know exactly who do we call at the business park to find out where to take the plastic? Is there a specific company that,
Yeah, the company is called Business Services Hawaii.
oh, business
And
services?
if
Okay.
you come in off Kipimana, they're right off Highway 11. It's about maybe a quarter mile off the highway, but yeah, it's hard to miss. They're a great big building there. Yeah, and like I said, it's called Business Services Hawaii.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That'd be great information to share. Okay, so we were going to go to Ruth and then Michelle.
Hi, yeah, I'm Pawilo Mauka Kalopa Community Association. And we're all desperate for something that we can do with perfectly recyclable materials that aren't being accepted by your contractor anymore. It's good to know that Shipman might take plastics. I was wondering if there is would there be any support or assistance with something like a community organized plastics collection day in a local area in which everybody who's stockpiling their plastics could get their stuff to one place, one truck could pick it up and take it to Shipman. Have you had any thoughts about that? Or does anyone have any thoughts about that?
I don't know that that's something that anybody's considered, but that's a great idea, and I'm willing to, explore that further. It would be great for us to go through the process too of inspecting it before it goes, because as was mentioned by Greg and Ramsey, one of the issues has been the quality of plastic that comes through. But is that anything that you've seen, Greg or Ramsey, other communities doing, organizing a group transfer of plastics to business services?
I have not
haven't seen. Oh, go ahead.
We both say I haven't seen, so we both started with the same sentence. No, I have not seen for plastic, but I've seen for kind of electronic hazard waste, these big events. Usually plastic, part of it is because other communities, if you mean outside the island, because they have these collection systems. So they have the blue container where they put the plastic, cardboard, and it get picked up. Here, we don't have that option to kind of encourage people to start putting plastic in the blue container and the green on the green container. Therefore, you don't see these kind of community, but it's a good idea. Have an event where the community get involved and maybe have it picked up once a month or something. But, we need to look at the detail, and it goes down to really bottom line, the cost, and have the staff, because we do provide essentially all these services without really a funding source. So we're trying to weigh which one is going to take which and which is going to get ahead of the other, because we're so limited on the funding and the staffing.
Ramsey, are you saying all of this because we start budget next discussions this week?
Yeah, I know. You need to get us more money, Heather.
You're trying to give me a hint here. Is that what that's about? Well, Ruth, I really like that idea. I think maybe the first place to start is to contact the business services, find out what capacity they have to take in at one time and all of that. And then we can look at maybe organizing some events, thinking maybe Hamakua Harvest folks would be willing to do something there on their side. But yeah, let's explore that. I think that's
Right.
a good suggestion. Michelle, you had a question?
Yeah, but just to follow up, Heather, to be outside the box thinking, maybe business services would be interested in paying it forward and help set up some of those events.
That's a good suggestion as well. Yeah,
No, it can't hurt to ask, right?
you're absolutely right. It can't hurt. to
Couple of
ask.
days on the Hamakua coast, you'd make some real good friends.
Yep, yep, yep.
My other question was about, we banned styrofoam, which yay, I am such a fan of that. That's wonderful. But now we have these compostable in a county facility containers. Like little, takeout containers and cups. And I've tried composting them in my garden and in my composter. They don't compost there. So is there plans for a facility in the lifetime of these cups? And what are the plans for that?
Great question, Michelle. And I was actually hoping we'd get a chance to talk a little bit about composting. So Greg and Ramsey, what's the word on composting?
Thank you. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
so no, good question. The county had started going in a direction to construct a compost facility. The reality is that when you're making compost, you have to have a good balance of the two different types of feedstocks. You have to have the carbon side, which is like your green waste, and then you have to have your nitrogen side, which is basically like your food waste. And unfortunately, when it comes to the county, most of our nitrogen food waste is taken by the pig farmers. So when you look at, most any restaurant or, the resorts or any big generator, grocery stores, anybody that's going to have a lot of the type of waste that's needed to run a compost facility, most of that is already spoken for by these, large piggeries. And the more basically that was evaluated, it was determined that the county really wasn't going to have the feedstock that was needed to run a successful compost facility. So one of the things that we're really hoping to be able to get back to is, and I know it doesn't really address the issue you're talking about with some of the compostable type, cutlery and serviceware, that does need like an industrial type compost facility in order to break it down. The problem, for us is really trying to get people to do more, in the way of like backyard composting and that kind of thing. We have had, active programs for educating folks on how to do that in their own backyards. Matter of fact, I don't know if any of you are familiar, when we had a program where we were educating people to compost in their backyard, and then the county would actually give them what they called this earth machine that they could put all their compostables in and make their own compost. But as far as like a industrial size facility, that may be quite a ways down the road in terms of having a facility. And there's actually been a lot of problems with some of that type of material. There's actually a lot of the programs, even on the mainland, that has discontinued accepting some of that type of serviceware because they've had issues with the ability to actually compost some of that type of material. So there's been actually a lot of rethinking the way some of that is done, but we're still optimistic that we're going to be able to do something that involves more of the organics. The reality is here on this island, most people, just even on the green waste end, are able to at least pull a majority of that out of their waste stream and make a huge dent in terms of what they have to actually put into the landfill. So that's kind of where we're trying to focus more of our attention on diversion of things like that away from and that's why I'm happy to hear people are actually interested in the possibility of doing, even if it's a 1 day a week green waste collection.
Great. I know that I was fortunate enough to visit the composting facility that I believe Adam Sharif up there has at the PTA. And I got to tell you that some of the the dirt coming out of there, his compost facility is really fantastic. So I don't know what scale that they're operating at up there, but I certainly understand one of the challenges we have is we don't want to build anything so big that we actually have to create waste to feed the beast. And that is one of the challenges that we've had with biodigesters and other the waste to energy, which is a whole nother subject we won't get into right now, but that's always a challenge is figuring out the right scale for our island. I want to open it up to anybody who's not had a chance to ask a question. So and Brittany or James, please get a question. Brad, who's on the phone. Auntie Lucille. Nope. Sounds like everybody's good. Okay. Any
Hi. I just came to listen.
Okay.
Because I wasn't familiar with the problems out there, but I came to listen for the North Hilo Community Council and take it back to them.
Thank you so much, Auntie. And now you know what the problems are. Yeah. Okay, James, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Heather, Counselor. Really, I didn't really want to dive too much into some of the Waimea waste issues. I really wanted to hear from District 1. So that's great to hear some of these things. It seems like, just touching back on one of the previous speakers, there was a concern about safety issues at, I think it was at Lapahoehoe, and with the children running around there. So that was one of the outstanding questions that I had from earlier, and how that could be addressed there. But really, so that's one question. The other kind of things I was wondering about are really the big picture ones. And I know you've touched on it a little bit here with the issues with recycling, the difficulties with composting. But really, my question is, what are the big ticket goals for solid waste and plans in the future?
So safety at Lapahoehoe, with the kids running around, and then what are the big picture items? And for folks that don't sit around and watch the fascinating council meeting videos, we did have a presentation from Ramsey and Greg at our last meeting about the new solid waste plan. But why don't you go ahead and respond to that, Greg and Ramsey?
No, that's a great question. Actually, that was an actual rule that actually got written in. You wouldn't think you'd have to actually write a rule that says don't have your kids run around the transfer station, but there wasn't a rule that existed before. There is a rule now that basically says that kids under 16 aren't supposed to be running around the transfer station unattended. Now, we've had people that are saying, does that mean, my 16-year-old nephew or son or whoever can't come and help me unload my pickup truck? Basically, the way we look at it is, if you got somebody that's actually actively involved in the process and doing some specific work, there's no issue with that. We're not going to just tell kids to get back in the car if they're not, But what we're trying to discourage is the type of behavior that you brought up. We don't want kids showing up at a transfer station and think it's time to go out and run around and, roll down the hill or something, or, so it does give us at least a tool that we can go and talk to folks and, let them know that, our concern is for the safety of the kids and everybody and all the other users of the facilities. But so some of these kind of more common sense types of rules did get written in and exist now. If you want, I can segue onto, some of the more long-term. I think, for our division, you know, some of our biggest focuses, you know, besides making sure that the refuse on a daily basis gets to where it's supposed to go, and that everybody has a safe, healthy facility that they can, you know, go utilize when they need it. Our biggest focuses are on trying to divert the waste away from the landfill that doesn't need to go to the landfill. We are constantly looking at how we're able to accomplish that. We do have a landfill with a lot of years of space left, but that doesn't mean that we want to squander any of that space. We want to make sure that the things that go in the landfill are things that really need to go in the landfill. So we're constantly looking for different things that will allow us to divert waste away from the landfill. You know, we believe, you know, that the green waste organics is probably one of the best ways, because it's all things that stay right here on this island. It's used by the people here on this island. It doesn't have to go someplace else to get processed. It's all things, it's grown here, it's processed here, it stays here, and is used for people in their yards and in agriculture.
Great. Ramsey, you want to talk about any long-term vision at all?
Yeah, yes. You know, our long-term vision on this island just to be sustainable. I think you all heard and watched the mayor's summit that we had back in March. So definitely our goal is to think outside the box, find ways to make sure that we convert everything that's reusable here within the island to become reusable, minimize the waste that go into the landfill, try to open the door to entrepreneurs and creative minds to come in, assist us in setting that path forward. Because I think definitely as a department, we need everybody's else involvement, because two brains think better than one brain. So definitely with meetings like that, with ideas, outside the box ideas, and people willing to put the time and the money to work with us and find a solution to become sustainable. I think that's the vision.
Great, thank you, Ramsey. And I'm always very encouraged by your optimism and your willingness to be creative, think out of the box, and bring us into the current century when it comes to both to waste management. Is there a place online, I was just looking while you guys were speaking here, where folks can see the updated solid waste management plan that you presented to the council? I'm not seeing it on your department's website.
I think that go ahead.
Hawaii Zero, www.hawaiizerowwaste.org.
Okay, and then
there
where,
should be a link to the report there under resources, I believe.
resources.
I'm not on there right now, but I do know it's on the hawaiizerowwaste.org page.
Okay. I'm not seeing it offhand, but everybody else, I'll throw the link here for the zero waste, and you guys can poke around and,
I'll forward you a link to it. I'll forward you a link. Yeah.
That would be great. That would be great. Okay.
Sure.
We are
Yeah.
a little bit.
In addition to that, Heather, just to make sure that integrated waste management plan is a living document. So it's very dynamic. It's mandated that we supposed to submit it to regulatory agencies. As you've seen during the presentation, it was dated 2019. It's a 2019 plan, but unfortunately because of the time. So things would change even during this new administration. We're gonna set forth different ideas and different plans. So, and this document is a living document, so it's gonna continue changing and evolving as we move forward.
Great. Okay, let's let's go ahead and see any last questions, seeing as we are just past 6:30. Don?
Yeah, just actually, this is kind of, I think, for all three of you. You know, every time there seems to be problems with the budget and costs and things like that, the idea of charging to use the transfer stations and some kind of fee or tipping fee, whatever you want to call it, seems to rear its ugly head. Is that, can we be kind of convinced that that's not going to happen this cycle? I always worry about that because I think that's a very, very bad idea.
Greg, Ramsey, any response to that?
Just to be honest with you, Don, we always trying to manage the resource that we have to the best that we can. Unfortunately, the demand of the services outweigh the cost and the funding because we only collect small percentage of the general fund into our department, literally about 4%. So on every $1,000 property tax you pay, we only get $40 for the solid waste, $40 to $50. So imagine that $50 is not going to get you for composting, recycling, transfer station, moving the waste from the east to the west to landfill. All that cost adds up. So we need to balance and we need to look at an equation that could be beneficial to all. But sometimes, unfortunately, for the services that to become sustainable and for the services that everybody's requesting, it has to have a cost tag associated with it. And it's unfortunate, but we have to set the stage. You know, otherwise you heard Greg, you know, sometimes if one of our staff members call in sick, we shut down the whole facility. And then we get phone calls telling us why you shut in the facility. But because we're not being compensated to even pay the wages to hire a new staff member. So something's going to give, something's going to take. So, you know, for the services, it has to be an attached fee services. So we're working on that. We're trying to navigate through it, but something is going to give and something is going to take. And we're going to have a better plan, better vision. Is it to have 22 transfer stations along the island, or would it be better just to look at that cost and convert it to the, you know, collection system, for example, instead of transfer station? Because we so decentralized, becoming more challenging. But definitely, it's always in our mind. You know, we always have to balance between our constituents and what they want versus how we're going to provide it with what we get. So we're going to blend them together. But like I said, something's going to give, something's going to take, and we're working.
So I did find while we were here the actual draft plan, which is now that last link there. And for Mezu, who did raise a concern about the lack of specifics, there are some more details in this plan. There's 82 action items, as I recall, which also need probably further definition. But you know, we do need to continue to work together. I just want to put it out there as a final note to Ramsey and Greg. You know, you have here on the screen several of the community leaders, either in different associations or just by nature of who they are, like Auntie Lucille. How can we help you? And in addition to, obviously, you want more money, but so does every other department. What are ways that we as a community can help the environmental management department address some of these issues that we've talked about tonight, communicate with you more effectively? Crystal brought up the idea of are there grants that we can go after, opportunities for federal funding? So I just want to throw it out to you two as kind of a closing statement. How can we work together better?
Definitely communication, communication, communication. I think also in addition to that, if we could team up to do community activities, because we are part of the community. So we need to all think outside the box. You guys got great leaders. Your ideas are welcome. And we could sit down and figure a way to achieve our goals and objectives all together. So definitely we have challenges, and definitely the first one is the funding. You know, with services, every service has a cost tag to it. But we need to figure a way how we're going to fund it. And I need your help to also think outside the box of look at how other communities nationwide, doesn't have to be, you know, within the state, you know, even city and county of Honolulu or Maui or on the mainland or somewhere overseas, you know, to what level we gonna get? If we're gonna move to the different century, we need to start thinking like the different century, upcoming century. So definitely, if we're gonna promote collection, that will streamline the recycling, because by de facto, everybody is going to be trained to put it in the blue and green and the brown container. So that by itself, it kind of gets two birds in one stone. It kind of train the people that you cannot mix your garbage in one garbage bag and take it to the transfer station. Now you have containers, and these containers, that's what's going to assist us and help us long term on diverting and recycling, because now it's going to be in different containers. But definitely we need to understand your vision and your goals, so we both could achieve that next century, the 21st century. So and let's think that way. I think it's worthwhile, and I think it'd be a win-win, and we could achieve all the recycling and the composting and the services that you guys want us to achieve. Great, you could chime in.
Yeah, Ramsey, thank you so much. Greg, you got some final thoughts on how we as a community can work most effectively with you folks?
Yeah, no, I mean, we, as Ramsey said, you know, we're interested in feedback. So that's why we appreciate being able to participate in forums like this. We're looking for feedback from the community. We know that, you know, this is diverse, you know, island community. We've got, you know, all around this whole island, you know, we try and get out as often as we can to hear what some of the different challenges, but also some of the really good ideas that come out through some of the forums that we've been able. I mean, we obviously much prefer to do it live and in person, you know, but you know, doing things like this, the Zoom is kind of a close second, you know, to be able to at least, you know, get some feedback from folks and hear, you know, it's a two-way street. So we're able to not only, you know, communicate the things that we are, you know, looking at doing, but also to hear from the community what's important from the specific community. So no, thank you very much for, you know, putting this on. And we, you know, we'll look forward to seeing more of these kinds of things in the future.
Great. Well, thank you both for that. And thank you again for making time to speak with everybody tonight. Appreciate the discussion and appreciate all of the folks from the various community groups being here. Feel free to follow up with me if there are questions that you come up with later that didn't get answered. I will pass them on to you, James, too, in case you end up doing the forum, and maybe you can use some of that material as well. And then Ruth, I will reach out and let's see about maybe organizing some sort of community event. Definitely Ramsey and Greg will tap you guys if we do end up doing something like that. I think it's a great idea and something we can do to build community and also deal with a challenging issue that we have that we all want to see improved. So with that, just any final words, Ramsey or Greg, and then we'll just head out for the night. Nope,
I think
okay.
once again, I want to thank every one of you and for giving me and Greg the opportunity to be part of it. And we'll continue looking forward to more of it. And definitely as a team, as a community, we could achieve it and we're going to get there. Let's work together to achieve it. So I look forward to more meetings and more discussions. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, everybody, remember April 22nd is Earth Day. A lot of people say, you know, every day is Earth Day, but you know, when you really try and focus on some of these things, you know, that's something that we try and really get out in front of people, that, you know, it's not just a single day of the year, but you know, since it is coming up, maybe try and figure out a thing you can do in your own local community and keep that on the front burner. So thank you again.
Great, thank you both. Ruth, you had a quick comment?
I'd just like to know where we will find the recording of this when it's done.
I will put it up on my Facebook channel. It'll also, I'll put it up, I'll throw it on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel on District 1, and I'll send an email to everybody that was here tonight with that information. And then probably link to it in the newsletter as well if you folks are getting that. So again, thanks everybody for tonight. All the best to you, and you know, sort your trash. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.